my co-host, Mr. Paul Hoyt, and this is another episode of Curing Racism, where we come together to help leaders get past their commonly accepted beliefs or commonly accepted biases, I should say, that lead to their behavioral biases, and we don't even pay attention. So we're going to get past our subconscious bias reflexes. We're going to pay attention to our conscious accepted biases, but together, by uncovering these things, we will create bridges to a new world. So, Paul,
Good afternoon.
welcome to another episode, brother.
Okay, well, yeah, it's always good to have
Yes.
these podcast episodes with you. I love this journey that we're on to helping people see through the superficial differences that divide us so we can discover the common values that unite us. Common values like family and friends and wanting to have a healthy and happy life and wanting to be appreciated and respected by others, having great relationships, etc. We all share those things in common. All too often, we let labels and tags and groups that we belong to get in the way of seeing those common values. So that's one of our goals is to help people give people the opportunity to see through those superficial differences.
Yes. The opportunity to see past what your communal eye may close you to your universal eye, which is love, right? Our communities, unfortunately, in our need to protect one another, which is sometimes good, can also create bad because instead of seeing how we can help one another, a lot of times we are now excluding someone because they don't look like us, they don't talk like us,
Amen.
they don't
So we
smile
all,
like us, they don't smell.
well, in fairness though, not too many people smile like you do, Paz. You you have you have a very large, big, beautiful smile, and I love it. Um, yeah. So today we were going to talk a little bit about the economics of discrimination, the economics of racism, and give it kind of a little introduction to some of the chapters in the book where we talk about that in a little more detail. And frankly, that's one of the things that surprised me when I was doing my research for the book Curing Racism many years ago, was that there were economic considerations and understanding the history of slavery and the history of oppression of those other people in the evolution of human society, um, and especially when it came to the Civil War here in the United States. I think I was under the impression until I did my research that the North decided to disallow slavery because of the moral imperative, that they just knew it was the right thing to do, only to find out that that was part of the reason. There was certainly that, but a lot of it had to do with the economics. It had to do with the people in the North feeling like people in the South had an extreme economic advantage because they were able to have slaves and they were able to house those slaves during the winter. They didn't have to pay nearly as much to keep their slave population healthy and productive as people in the North did. And people in the North said, hey, not only is it the wrong thing to do, mostly it's that they have an economic advantage that we don't share and that we have to do away with that. That was really quite surprising to me, but it certainly does ring
Yeah,
true. And if anybody else
yes.
does their research, they'll find out
It's
the same
funny
thing.
when you look back. Yes, it's funny because when you go back, being a student of history myself, you know, and you tell people that Abraham Lincoln didn't free the slaves, it becomes a whole nother debate because the Emancipation Proclamation, first of all, was a great speech, but wasn't a law. And second of all, he only freed slaves he had no control over. He didn't free any slaves that was part of the Union. the only free slaves that were part of the Confederacy. So it's like me going into your house and telling your wife that she can drink all of the water in your house. We can't, I can't tell you what's going on in your house. And that's what happened. So when we understand history better, it allows us to not repeat history again.
Right, right. And so, by the way, that economic advantage that the South had, or any slave owners had, continued in the form of prejudice and discrimination and putting down. As
Mm.
long as they kept Black people uneducated, did not given the opportunity to own land, really, or to make, or to help them or make them continue to lead an impoverished lifestyle, then they could still have them for not free labor, but much reduced labor. And so and that persists today in the economic advantage that some people think exists in the form of discrimination and prejudice. If we put these other people down, whether they be Arkansas hillbillies or Cajuns from Louisiana or Hispanics in Southern California or immigrants in Iowa, if we can keep these people down in some way by not giving them loans, not allowing them to build houses, not giving them a basic education, then that is to our economic advantage because we can hire them for less money than we would otherwise if they were educated and powerful people. So, that economic.
Unfortunately, we
Go
got
ahead.
to see that. Unfortunately, we got to see that with this current president, right? When he went to um, get rid of most of our immigrant population because he said they were doing black jobs. They were doing black jobs, and what he realized was those jobs that he considered black jobs, we don't want them either. So
Yeah.
we
So
had, yeah, we had to allow our immigrants to stay for somewhat because who else is going to do the farming on some of the things that we weren't doing that is mostly, done with our immigrant population. So it's
yeah,
important to understand not only the economics of discrimination, but how those economics create a hierarchy in our society that allows us to look down upon the most necessary of people, like our farmers.
yeah, and I think that at one hand, it's good for a society to have people who are willing to do those low paid jobs, but it's even better for our society to lift everybody up, to give everybody a fair chance. Because when people have hope, when people have education, they will aspire to doing those higher paid jobs, that learning the trades, by going to college, by taking honest work. But when you continue to push them down and push them down and push them down, and discriminate against them and be prejudiced against them, they're more likely to be impoverished. And if they're impoverished, they're more likely to commit crimes. And they're not able to buy the washing machines, the dryers, the cars, the houses that lift the entire rest of the economy. So it is a curious combination of needing to have some portions of your society who will do those menial tasks and lower paying jobs, and also having a society where everybody has the opportunity to aspire to their own greatness, to reach their own level of income producing opportunity.
I love that you mentioned that because I it and I tell people all the time, it doesn't have to be a lower paying job. It just, I give the example of my aunt Dot. She runs a porta potty company. She likes to clean the toilets. I don't know why she likes to clean the toilets. I don't know what excites her about cleaning these toilets, but when she's done, right, She has this sense of fulfillment that I would never find, right? So it's about allowing people to find their passion and to profit off of that passion. It's not a pay scale, right? But a passion scale, because the
Hmm.
pay will always equal out when you're passionate about what you're doing. Like she cleans enough porta potties to actually create a nice living because she's passionate about these porta potties.
That's very interesting. So, what we want to cure, what we want to encourage everybody to do is to lift everybody up. No matter what group
Yes.
they belong to, no matter what the color of their skin, their race, their religion, even their political party. We want to lift everybody up and make them feel like that they've got a fair shot, that they give them a sense of optimism, of understanding that their hard work will result in a fair reward for them so that they can lift up the people around them with the positive energy so that we have more people in the United States who've stepped into their confidence, who've stepped into their courage, who've stepped into their power, who've stepped into their love, because love is, the opposite of that fear. When we can remove their fear by giving them hope and giving them optimism and giving them opportunity, they will step into being a better person for our society, an easier person to deal with, a person who contributes to the well-being of everyone.
I love it. I think Whitney Houston said it best. I believe that children are the future. Teach them well and let them lead the way. Show them all the beauty they possess inside. Give them a sense of pride to make it easier. Let the children's laughter remind us how we used to be. Right?
So
Let the children, yeah.
that was good, Pez. That was from the heart. I will say
Yeah.
that I have sung that solo in a few churches in my past. So
Yeah.
I love that song. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's our encouragement. If you understand, if you're listening to this podcast and you understand that racism is not just a thing out of fear, that there is and has been an economic reason for racism, an economic reason for prejudice. You can learn to manage that well by giving people hope, by giving them opportunity, by giving them optimism, and lift up the entire society. As we like to say, a rising tide lifts all boats. If we can give people hope, if we can let them rise to their own level of accomplishment, let them do their job that they want to do, whether it be an airplane pilot or somebody that cleans the porta potties. Give them an opportunity to pursue their passion in fairness, so that they can pursue their values, the common values that we all share.
I love that you say that. And I want people to realize that this is not just a black or white thing. And it's not just in America. We just live in America. So
Yeah.
we're giving you our point of view based on our environment, based on where we live and what we understand. But America has not just done it to black people. During the railroads, we had the Chinese, that were, discriminated against. Before they brought slaves over here, right? They tried to enslave the Indians or the Native Americans, but they couldn't because you were on their land and they can get away, So, so it's not something that is new. It is something that was a right? A commonly accepted belief, even prior to slavery, right? Napoleon, when he invaded Egypt, when he saw the big broad noses on the Sphinx, blew the noses off the Sphinx so that he could be able to say that they can identify with the Sphinx, right? So this is something that's been done for centuries, right? It is part of the individualistic nature that was taught throughout Europe, right? Which has now, and who are the great colonizers of this side of the world? the Europeans, right? So they brought a lot of what they're in conflict. So, you know, the French and English wars, the Spanish and all. So all of those things, if we take just a little bit of time to realize that we are all the same, right?
We
We
are.
have we have two eyes, whether they both work. You know, I have four, said as Paul. You know, right? We have a nose, two ears, a mouth, 10 fingers. Right there, we have more similarities than we do differences, and most of these differences did not, and like Paul said, were done for economic reasons. So if you were poor, no matter what color, no matter what culture you claimed, you were still negatively affected by these forms of labor because you couldn't get those jobs. You
Yeah.
couldn't aspire here because someone else was being held down in your place. So when we can allow everyone to fly free and soar, right? The entire world, the entire human race gets to be uplifted and fly together.
Love that. That's a great closing one. So, if you haven't done so already, go to Amazon, get the book Curing Racism. It's available in Kindle and in paperback forms. Stay tuned. Go to curingracism.com, sign up so you can get our newsletters and get kept aware of the workshops and other activities that we got coming up. If you work for a company and you think some diversity education might be valuable at your company, reach out to us. We'd love to do a diversity education workshop and help people recognize and overcome those in-group biases that separate us so much. Because we'd love to do our part to help the world, not only the United States, but as Baz says, everybody in the world, um, live in an environment where people are respected based upon their character. As Dr. Martin Luther King said, the content of their character instead of the color of their skin. Thanks again, Paz. I appreciate the opportunity to be on this journey with you today. And thanks for everybody that's listening to our podcast today.
Yes, we thank you. And even if you didn't bring us on for just curing racism, leadership comes from those who are bold. So bring us to your company, to your situation, so that we can help your team, your family, your company run on this most optimum way. This curing racism, my brother.
Thanks, Paz. See you next week.
See you next week.